Good morning, O'Donnell Middle School. Good morning, O'Donnell Middle School, 8th grade. Thank you for being with us this morning. Before we get started, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have Juan Lee sing the national anthem. Please rise. The flag is to my right. Just give yourself a good distance. Back up. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we beheld at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, they proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Go. Thank you, Juan. So, this morning, 8th grade, we have a very special program prepared for you today. And before we get started, before I forget, I want to thank a number of people that make this program possible each year. As you know, our Memorial Day program is a program we run every year, and we run it always right around Memorial Day weekend. And the only way that we're able to make this program possible is with the help of a lot of people. And this year we've needed more help than we've ever needed before, but we've received it, and we're so grateful for that. So there are a number of people that I want to thank. In no particular order, thank you, Stoughton Media Access Corporation, for filming this today. CJ Mullen, thank you. Thank you to our band and chorus, our 8th grade students that have been practicing for this and getting ready. Thank you. Thank you to our band teachers. We've got Miss Bowman here. We've got Mr. Kerbo getting you ready. Thank you to all of our elementary counselors and teachers that are here with us today to help us out. Thank you to our friends from Brockton Public Schools that are with us this morning, and you have probably seen in our hallways this week. We're very grateful. And there's a couple more people I want to make sure that I recognize. Miss Caitlin Valere to my right, social studies teacher, 8th grade teacher, and our department head. Thank you, Miss Caitlin Valere. Miss Valere puts her heart and soul into this program every year, and she organizes it, and she's a huge part of that. And finally, you're going to meet Mr. Paul Monti in a little bit, and he'll be in here, and he'll be doing his presentation. But of course, we'd like to thank Mr. Paul Monti for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Monti. So we've been thinking a lot about this week in this program, and some themes have come to our minds as we've planned this program this year. And the theme that came to our minds, and I'm going to read it to you, when we're talking about people that have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, and we're talking about people that have given their lives for our country, how can we honor them? How can we show respect? And I was thinking that we honor their lives by making the most of our lives. I'll say that again. We honor their lives by making the most of our lives. And that theme is just in my mind, and I think that you're going to hear that theme today, whether I'm speaking or Ms. Valère or Mr. Monti. It's really making the most out of each day and doing the best you can each day. As you hear Jared's story this morning, that's going to be a major theme about every day making good choices and doing the right thing. And that's how we honor people's lives. You should know that the reason why we recognize Memorial Day, and it's different than Veterans Day. Memorial Day is to honor those that have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Veterans Day is when we honor all veterans. And you may remember our Veterans Day program that we had in November. Veterans Day is always on November 11th, and we explained that. World War I ended on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. That's why it's on November 11th. But Memorial Day is different than Veterans Day. And that's important for you to know. In Stoughton, Stoughton has a proud history of service to our country. And if you walk around Stoughton, you may notice memorials. And we have one up here. There are memorials at Town Hall. There's memorials at Faxon Park. There are streets named after soldiers from Stoughton. And your street may be named. I know my street in Stoughton is named after John Winfiske. John Winfiske served in World War II, and he was killed in action, and my street was named after him. Your street, I bet, has a history behind it. We wanted to highlight a few residents of Stoughton that made the ultimate sacrifice so you can get a better understanding of Memorial Day. And behind me, this is Herbert Lawrence Cannell, and he was a private in the U.S. Army in the 77th Division, and he was killed in action in World War I. World War I occurred roughly about 100 years ago. So that's Herbert Cannell. Zygmunt Poskis, and you might recognize Poskis Street because Poskis Street is right off of School Street if you're driving down School Street. And I bet a lot of kids here know where Poskis Street is. Paul Shawanka from Stoughton was killed in action in Vietnam. Paul's story is a story that was in the national news about 10 years ago when his remains were found in Vietnam, because the battle that he was in was so fierce that the Marines, the Army, they never leave a man behind, but in this situation they were in Vietnam, they couldn't find Mr. Shawanka. But he was finally recovered, and there's a memorial to him at the intersection of 139 Pleasant Street, and then I think that would be Page Street, up near, as you're going toward Target. You may notice that memorial right there for Paul Shawanka. And you'll notice these memorial signs around town. And read them. Take a moment out of your day, read those. And they have the name, the service, the war, going back to the American Revolution, to the Civil War, and read those. They're everywhere in Stoughton. I'm going to now turn it over to Ms. Valère and for her part of the presentation. Ms. Valère, come on up.
It's been an emotional week, to say the least. The losses our town has suffered are devastating, but it's important for all of you to know that we are not alone in our grief. Just as we wear our black and orange ribbons in Stoughton today, military families will be wearing gold stars this weekend to represent mourning, unity, and strength. Starting in World War I, gold stars were pinned onto clothing and added to flags of the immediate relatives of military personnel killed in action. The stars were used to represent the honor and glory of the soldiers. But they were also intended to recognize the sacrifice of their families and the need to support them through the darkest of times. Unfortunately, thousands of these gold stars will be worn this weekend, each noting a father, mother, brother, sister, son, or daughter whose loved one gave their life for their country. Among the Gold Star families we honor is that of Sergeant First Class Jared C. Monti, who courageously and selflessly died in Afghanistan trying to save his wounded comrade, Brian Bradbury, in 2006. Posthumously receiving the Medal of Honor for his actions, Jared's mother, Janet, and father, Paul, were wearing their gold stars when they accepted Jared's medal from President Obama in 2009. Since then, Mr. Paul Monti has remained a strong Gold Star community leader. Recognizing Jared and thousands of other fallen military personnel on both Veterans Day and Memorial Day, Mr. Monti started the Flags for Veterans program, which places an American flag at each and every grave at Bourne National Cemetery. Mr. Monti helped Gold Star families around the world after comments from his 2011 Memorial Day radio interview inspired the creation of Lee Brice's hit song, I Drive Your Truck, one that millions have connected with as they learn to grieve and cope with a difficult or sudden loss. Mr. Monti will always mourn his son Jared, but he also celebrates the life Jared lived and honors the hero that he will always be. On Memorial Day, remember that freedom is not free. Too many Americans have had to struggle with the deaths of young men from their communities, young men who went to war and never came home. Never forget the millions of soldiers, including Jared, who willingly made the ultimate sacrifice to keep us safe, and also be mindful of the Gold Star families who are grieving because of it. The void is never filled for those who are gone, but we unite to pay homage to their lives and legacy, and we grow together to live a life of compassion, joy, and fulfillment. It is now time for me to introduce today's special guest speaker, Mr. Monti. Thank you for your continued strength, leadership, and inspiration for Gold Star families around the world and for the families in Stoughton during this difficult Memorial Day weekend. Mr. Monti.
Thanks. Drop part of it. I don't like being pinned down, you know? Moving target is harder to hit. All right. Well, good morning, Stoughton Middle School 8th graders. Lovely smiling faces out there. I must admit, I don't want to be here. I do not want to be here for a number of reasons. I spent half my life at Stoughton High School teaching. Stoughton is in my blood. The loss of the 4 young men recently has struck me to my core. I have not been able to wrap my head around it yet. I grieve as the rest grieve in this town. If my son were alive, I wouldn't be here either. He's been gone 12 years. But it's like I received the knock on the door just today. So what do we do after such a loss? What are they doing in Parkland, Florida, with a tremendous loss? Or Santa Fe, Texas, with their loss? Or maybe you've lost someone close to you. What do? You cry a lot. You ask why. But they're not coming back. There is no coming back. The bridge is burned. It's a one-way road, one way forward. And so what you need to do is celebrate their life. You need to live your life in such a way that honors those that have gone before you. Some of you will find that a fairly easy transition. For others, it's going to be extremely difficult. Some of you will have to change your ways completely. Today we're celebrating, wrong word, there's no celebrating. Today we're talking about Memorial Day. Now let's understand, as Mr. Guglia tried to tell you, that there are actually 3 military holidays. 3. Last month we had a holiday, Armed Forces Day. We didn't get the day off school. That celebrates those people that are currently in the military. In November, on the 11th, we celebrate Veterans Day. That celebrates those that have served in the military, but no longer are serving. And this weekend, we celebrate Memorial Day. That is, we celebrate those who were killed while serving in the military. Remember the difference. My son was one who served in the military. He served because he wanted to. Every single person in the military today, whether it's the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, serves because they want to. Nobody is forced to serve. We have what's called an all-volunteer service. And when they sign up, they sign a piece of paper saying that they will defend the Constitution of the United States of America and promise that will serve up to and including their own life. How many of you would go to work somewhere and sign a paper saying, well, I'll work here, and I'll work hard, and I'll work including if it costs me my life? I don't think there'd be too many. But every military person that you meet has signed that paper and promised to serve up to and including giving their own life. Jared was a young man like you guys. Middle school. He was an honor student, but only because he worked his tail off to be that. There was nothing inherent. It was work, work, work. He was a very good athlete, not because of natural ability, but because of work, work, work. He had fun, fun, fun. Was a go-kart, then a dirt bike, then a motorcycle, you know. Got along with everybody, adventurous, no hill too high, no tree too tall, no river too wide. We used to call him the kid with 9 lives. Great basketball player. Tried out for the junior high basketball team. Was the last cut. Nobody knew why. All the other guys on the team decided they were going to quit because Jared didn't make the team. Jared said, "Oh, no, you're not. You get out there and play." Next year, tried out for the team again. Last cut. No one knew why. Eighth grade. Tried out for the team again. Believe it? Why? He did. Because of his never give up attitude. This time the varsity coach said to him, "Hey, Jared, why don't you be the team manager? You can keep the books. You can warm up with the team before the game. You can't have a uniform, but you can warm up." How humiliating is that? But he did it. After the second game, the coach found him a uniform so he wouldn't look so funny in warm-ups. The third game, coach allowed him to play during mop-up time. By the end of the year, he was outscoring the starters. Why? Because that's who he was. He was always try your hardest. He was never give up kid. Didn't matter what the situation was, never give up. You're flunking math, you're doing lousy in English, you're going to give up? That should be your number one priority. I'm doing lousy in that. Then that's my number one priority because I'm going to try my hardest at it. I'm not going to give up. Junior year in high school. Comes home, sits down with Dad. "Hey, Pop, I want to join the Army." "No way. You're a bright student. You're going to college." "But, Dad, you can't afford to send me to college." "Yeah, don't worry about it, son. I'll just get another job." "But, Dad, you're already working 2 and 3 jobs." How do you argue with that? So Dad signed the paper. So in the summer between junior and senior year, while all his friends are going to the beach and having a great time, he's in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, in the heat and humidity, doing basic training. Senior year comes along, graduates. "Hey, Dad, I think I'm going to get out of the reserves and go regular Army. Oh, boy. Are you kidding? All right, son, if that's what you want. And off he goes, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Training to be what? You're going to do what? Forward observer? That's the suicide squad. That's the guys that operate behind enemy lines. That's what he did. From there, he was off to Kosovo, fighting the battle there. You kids probably don't remember the war that we fought in Bosnia, Kosovo. Saw things nobody should ever see. People being literally murdered, genocide taking place. We would send them care packages, you know, books, magazines, candy, food, clothes. And he would give it all away. There were kids there starving. They got the candy, the books, they got clothes. Because to him it was the right thing to do. Came home, a changed man. As you would be if you had seen the things he saw. Because you can't imagine what our soldiers see. You can't. You can't imagine seeing people ripped apart, literally, with their innards hanging out, or their brains shot out, or that guy that you just ate with the night before who has no head left. It's tough to talk about this, but it's what our soldiers go through. From there, Jared was off. He went to South Korea. Went back to South Korea a second time. Then in 2003, off to Afghanistan. That was shortly after the Twin Towers were bombed. I know you know about that. Came home, was home for a few months. 2006, right back to Afghanistan. He was in Afghanistan for, 4 months. Dad got a phone call real early in the morning. Got me out of bed. Said, who the hell is calling me this early in the morning? Pick up the phone. Hello. Hi, Pop. Happy Father's Day. How you doing? No cell phones back then. He's calling on a satellite phone from Afghanistan. Greatest Father's Day gift I ever got. We talked for a while. Talked about the Red Sox, Celtics, father-son stuff, you know. Hey, Pop, I gotta go. We're leaving on a mission. That was June 18th, 2006. 3 days later, car pulls up in my driveway, 9:45 in the evening. Doorbell rings. Who the hell's ringing my doorbell at 9:45 at night? I'm sorry, I use that expression too much. I get up, I go to the door, I notice the car in the driveway. And I see two men in uniform walking towards my door. And I knew. We regret to inform you my son and 15 other soldiers had left that Sunday evening, that Father's Day evening, had left their base. They were driven out by Humvee as far as they could and then walked, and then took 3 days to climb a mountain, 8,500 feet high, higher than anything we have in the East Coast, anything. They were carrying packs, 70 pounds or more. There was no trail, no road. They climbed. It was 100 degrees in the daytime. So they climbed mostly at night. They got to the top. There was a plateau there, probably about as big as this auditorium. Had some trees one side, trees on another side. Backside was a slope that went almost straight down. They set up an observation area. The Taliban were located below in the valley, and they were observing a Taliban post because there was going to be a major army invasion into that valley. But they had run out of food, they'd run out of water. And so they had set up a helicopter drop to bring in supplies for them. The helicopter was supposed to come in during the invasion in the valley so no one would notice it. But the invasion into the valley was postponed for 2 days. And they were stranded on the top of the mountain. So they sent the helicopter anyway, which came in and dropped the supplies almost on top of them, and the people in the compound below, the Taliban, saw it. And that evening, as the sun was setting, gunfire, machine gun fire, rocket-propelled grenades were launched at them from the wooded area surrounding them. They had enemy on 3 sides. One young soldier, Pat Liebert, sniper, shooting back at the enemy, popping up behind a rock. Popped up, took a bullet through the head, and he was killed. Another young soldier, Derek James, took a bullet in the hand, bullet in the back. Third young soldier, Brian Bradbury, 22 years old, took an RPG, was down right in the middle of no man's land, between his boys and the Taliban, in an open field with no cover. And they kept shooting at him. Sergeant Chris Cunningham said, "Look, I'm going to go get Bradbury." Jared looked at Cunningham and said, "No, you're not. He's my boy. I'll get him." He took off his headset. He had been in communication with the main base, calling in air support, artillery support. He handed his headset to another soldier, said to that soldier, "Hey, you are now Chaos 3-5. That was his call sign. And in order to not interrupt he let that soldier use his call sign. Put on his helmet and ran out to get Bradbury. The enemy fire was so intense it drove him back behind a wall. But he was a kid that couldn't give up, see? Ever. He had to try his hardest. He knew it was the right thing to do. And so he went out to get Bradbury a second time. This time, more of the Taliban knew where he was and was shooting at him, and he was driven back a second time. Well, that's it. No more. But wait a minute. I can't give up. I have to try harder. It's the right thing to do. And so he rose for a third time and went out to save Bradbury. And this time, within a few feet of Bradbury, he was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, and he was killed. For that action, in 2009, President Obama honored him posthumously with the Congressional Medal of Honor. I and my wife received it for him. Throughout his career, throughout his life, he was a very, very giving individual and eventually gave his life. I remember going home from work one day and passing by his bedroom, saw that his bed was missing. He was 16 years old. "Where's your bed, Jared?" "Well, Dad, one of my friends got kicked out of his house, and he's sleeping over someone else's house, and they have no bed for him, so he's sleeping on the floor, and he can't sleep. So I gave him my bed. He needed it more than me. I don't mind sleeping on the floor." Who does that? One day he come to me, 17 years old. "Hey, Dad, you know those spruce trees in the front yard? I mean, we got 6 of them out there. Would you mind if I cut one down?" "Well, what for?" "Well, the guys and I, we want to have our own Christmas tree." "Well, I want to get rid of them anyway." "Sure, go ahead." So after he died, one of his friends came to me and said, "Hey, Mr. Monti, you remember that tree he cut down?" I said, "Sure." I said, "You know what he did with that?" I said, "Yeah, you guys used it for a Christmas tree." "No, not really. There was a young woman in town, a single mom with 3 kids. She couldn't afford a tree, presents, anything. So Jared decided to give her a Christmas. He brought the tree to her, bought a stand for it, lights, ornaments, decorations. He even made Christmas dinner for her and the kids and bought presents for her and the kids and told nobody. He told nobody. One of his first military assignments was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home of the 82nd Airborne paratroopers. He and a buddy were staying together. They went out, they bought furniture. Buddy comes home one day, the kitchen set's gone. They had just spent $1,000 on a brand new kitchen set. "Monty, where's the kitchen set?" "Well, I was over one of my soldiers' houses today and his kids were eating on the floor. They needed it more than we did. I'll give you the $500 you kicked in for it." Who does that? That was his whole life. Give, give, give. We never saw him. Christmas, Thanksgiving, gonna go home, be with the family? Sure. Never came. Jared, what's the story? Why can't you get leave? Oh, I don't know, Dad. I don't know what the deal is. Jared, you're a sergeant. You should be getting leave. That's a job for privates. And we found out what was going on. A private had a wife and a kid. Here, you take my leave papers. You go home, be with your family. I'll take the duty. Who does that? He's in Afghanistan. He gets his 1 month leave to fly home, to be with his family and friends. He doesn't come home. Young soldier, hadn't seen his wife in 2 years. Jared signed his leave over to him so he could go home. Who does that? Very, very humble kid, never told anybody of these things. When he died, I had to clean his room out. A horrible thing to have to do. But the memories. So now, under his bed, I pull out this box. It's full of trophies. Soccer trophies, baseball trophies, the usual. But there's one trophy that really stands out because it's 3 feet tall. And it's a weightlifter holding up weights. I said, what is this? I read the plaque. Awarded to Jared Monti. First place, under 17 division, New England Weightlifting Championships. Under the bed, never saw it. I drove him to the competition. I was going to go in. No, Dad, that's all right. You don't have to come in. I'll get a ride home. Who does that? 35 medals. 35. You can see them up here at some point. Where did they go? In his sock drawer. What am I trying to tell you? There's a way to live your life. Being good to other people that brings you more in life, more to your heart, more to your soul, more to your being than anything else. That is in giving. My son is no longer here in the flesh, but in the spirit. He lives throughout this country and other countries in the world. There are many children now throughout the world that carry his name. His influence hopefully will never end. Because maybe some of you might be motivated by him and what he did for you. Yes, for you and you and you. He didn't do it for himself. You can plainly see that. He did it for you so you could be free, so you can go to the movies, so you can listen to your iPhone or whatever. So you can go where you want to go on vacation, fly where you want to fly, go to school when you want to go to school, play sports. He did it for you. And all we ask of you is one thing in return, one little thing. Always try your hardest, no matter what it is you do. Never give up. You can't succeed if you give up. and foremost in life, always do the right thing. Always. Thank you all. God bless you all. God bless America.
Stand right there for 1 sec. So, I hope you all realize how fortunate you are to have been at this assembly today. Mr. Monti instilled upon us many words of wisdom, so I hope there's one thing you're taking away, whether it's something personal from Jared's life that touched your heart, or if it's something to be more mindful of, which is what Memorial Day is all about, the sacrifices of our fallen. Take something from this, or that 3 wonderful words of advice he gave you at the end that you could carry on this week, next week, and throughout your entire time as a human being on this earth, okay? Mr. Monti said it wasn't easy for him to be here today, and we're very appreciative of his time. So Mr. Monti, on behalf of the O'Donnell Middle School and the generosity of our students and staff, I want to present to you a check for the Flags for Vets program, so you continue your wonderful message, remembering our fallen. Thank you. Mr. Guglia is going to have some closing words for us in just a minute, but we also have a treat. The chorus has been preparing very diligently to honor Jared through song, which we're going to do right now. Beautifully done. Thank you, Ms. Bowman, and thank you, 8th grade chorus. So again, Mr. Guglia is going to have some closing remarks in a moment, but my closing words to you is, again, leave with something today. In your heart of hearts, leave with something that you're more mindful of, that you can live your life by, and always remember our fallen. And something I wanted to give you to make sure there's something over the weekend that you can look at. On your way out today, each of you is going to receive a little toy soldier. It is not to be used as a toy. It is to be used as a sign of remembrance. And I stumbled upon a poem I would like to read to you called Take a Soldier. Remember the fallen, remember the lost. Remember the families who too pay the cost. Remember those serving today as we speak. They are the strong and the brave, never the weak. Take a soldier with you today as you go. Rest him in a special place you will see and know. Be mindful and thankful for the soldiers who never came home, the ones who made the ultimate sacrifice, so freely we can roam. Thank you.
We honor their lives by making the most of our lives. I spoke about this at the beginning of our program today, and I'd like to end with that. And also want to let you know that if you're looking to honor these lives, there's something that you can do. And it begins tomorrow, and it begins tomorrow at the Bourne National Cemetery. The Flags for Veterans program, that a flag will be laid at each grave at Bourne National Cemetery. Thousands and thousands of flags. And if you're able to go there with your parents tomorrow morning, that's something you can do. We also have Memorial Day events going on around town. We have a Memorial Day parade on Monday. Or you can make a more simple gesture. You can thank someone that signed that paper that Mr. Monti talked about, that was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. You know them, they're in your family, or you may see them at the store. You know them. You can thank them and recognize them. That's something you can do. I think that's important, knowing what you can do to honor those lives. And Mrs. Jarositis, a few days ago, wrote something on our wall over here, and I think Jared could have written it, because I've read it probably 20 times. And I'm going to read it to you. I'm sure you've noticed it. Some kids have better grades than you. Some kids have cooler clothes than you. Some kids are better at sports than you. It doesn't matter. You can have your thing too. Be the kid who can get along with others. Be the kid who is generous. Be the kid who is happy for others. Be the kid who does the right thing. Be the nice kid. And we've talked about honoring those that are near and dear to our heart, and I read that and I really think that Jared could have written that. And I don't think Mr. Monti and Ms. Jarositis wrote that together. I think Ms. Jarositis wrote that, but it connects exactly to the message that we're trying to give you today. So remember what we're saying today. We thank you for your wonderful and undivided attention. The band and the chorus were outstanding. You just did unbelievable. Let's give them another round of applause. If I didn't know it, I'd think you were a high school band and chorus. I really would, if you asked me to guess what grade it was. So, Mr. Monti, he has brought a number of items from Jared and to honor Jared, and we have those soldiers. So what we're going to do is we want you to see these. This is why Mr. Monti brought them. He wants you to see them. So what we're going to do is, in an orderly way, we're going to have you come up and start where Miss Valera is, and then work your way down the table. And after you're done viewing the certificates and the pictures and the Medal of Honor, after you're done viewing that, we're going to have you return to class. It is third period. So we're going to have you return to class. So thank you, everyone. And our band is going to play some songs for us as we view Jared's items. Thank you. Thank you for everything this morning.